I'm really scared about making this video, but it's so important. If you asked me 10 years ago why I was drinking alcohol, I would have given you very shallow, surface level reasons like, it's fun, my friends do it, it's social, it's what I do on a Friday and Saturday night. All of these reasons which aren't actually true. And it was only when I realized the real reason why I was drinking, my desire to drink completely disappeared. And I know that a lot of people have shame and stigma attached to their own drinking habits and their own stories. But I really hope that by sharing my own story, I'm going to bring light for other people on their own drinking habits, present or past. And that we can only get rid of the stigma and shame when we start talking about our own stories. So here's mine. So to understand why I drank alcohol in my teenage and later on years, we have to go back to when I was about 5 or 6 at the time. And I was seeing a speech therapist, right? I think it was a school. I think the school were concerned and I wasn't speaking. I think they thought that I was a mute child. Like I hardly spoke, only in like exceptional circumstances. And so I had to see the speech therapist because I thought it might have been like something physical. And I remember I was in the waiting room with one of my caretakers. I want to refer to my parents here as caretakers. I don't want it to be like, my mother did this, my father did this. They tried their best. Their best wasn't good enough. But I'm really happy and at peace with everything that happened in my past. Because I'm really proud of the person that I am today. Sounds really cheesy, but it's true. So I was in the waiting room with one of my caretakers to see the speech therapist. And every week I had kind of had homework to do, and then that session would be based on whatever it was. And this one time it was a coloring exercise, and there was a picture of a bunny with like the floppy ears, and the bunny had like these cute polka dot socks on. And I had colored the socks and the polka dots in one color. And this was a massive scandal when my caretaker reviewed my work. And there were comments that I had embarrassed that person. What was the speech therapist going to think of me? How stupid was I? How did I not know that polka dots were meant to be colored a different color than the other socks? And I just remember for, I think it was like the next week, I was just like trying to like review in my mind, like at what point in my life had I been told that polka dots needed to be colored a different color than the rest of the sock? Because I used to always try and like this is what I need to do. So essentially, like I developed very perfectionistic tendencies, right? Because by coloring those socks in incorrectly, I got into a lot of trouble. And as a 5, 6 year old, I wanted to keep myself safe. So my coping mechanism and like what that taught me was like, if I was perfect, I wouldn't get into any trouble with my caretakers. So that was my whole childhood and my whole approach. Be as perfect as possible, to blend in, to be completely invisible. I remember that was my goal in life, be invisible. So many times I would sit behind the curtains in the living room or the dining room, hiding, literally hiding in the corner of a room. It's so sad. But that's what I learned as a child, like be perfect or invisible. Right, and blend in, and don't for any reason like draw attention to yourself. Like that's gonna get you into unsafe situations. So that was my childhood, and those were the lessons. So as I went through school, primary and secondary, I just always tried to blend in. I remember I didn't even know how to read. This is crazy. I was in year 4, and I remember I didn't know how to read. I was just like moving my, like we had like reading time in class. I'd notice everyone else is like reading speed, and I just pretend to do the same. I don't even realize, like, I don't think anyone actually realized I couldn't read. I just learned how to read from memory. I'd memorize what that word was, like the spelling. But yeah, like I've never asked for help, never. Oof, it's horrific. So put that through primary school, secondary school, the same. Try and blend in, do everything perfectly. Don't stand out. Then when I got to my early mid teenage years, alcohol started to be available from friends' parents. And so I started drinking as everyone else did, right? Like I wasn't an extreme case. My drinking patterns were very, very normal in my teenage years. Um, and then as I got older, I went to university. I still had that fear of like speaking in public or saying something, even saying something. We had like presentations, I think it was like first or second year at university, and I was terrified. Like I had so much fear in me. I don't know if it was like a social anxiety or just pure fear of not being accepted, not being enough, and not being of standing out and being different, I guess. Mm. And so I used alcohol. Alcohol really helped me in the sense if I did feel as if I wasn't fitting in, I could just drink, and after a couple of bottles, in those days it was Alka Pops, like I think it was like the VK Ice, showing my age, but that's what we'd be drinking at university. So if I didn't feel as if I fitted in, I would just drink, and that completely helped with my social anxiety and all of that nervousness that I had around life. So even at university, like I was going out probably a bit more than everyone else, but I was working full time to pay for my university studies and everything else. So work hard, play hard. That was my mentality. And then that continued even into like my first job after university, started working for the government, doing infrastructure planning, strategic planning, and strategic what? Strategic strategy and policy. I can't even remember, but who knows? I was in the strategy and policy team. That was very fun. And I did actually like it. And I remember when I was 26, I heard like my team members were a lot more mature than I was. And they were saying how sorry they felt for younger generation because it was almost impossible to get on the housing market. And so I went to see a mortgage advisor that following Saturday, and I was just like, oh, so these are my savings, like this is what I earn, like where am I at? And at that time, he offered me like £300,000 for a mortgage, which seemed like crazy for me. And it was that weekend that I realized that I'd followed society's path for happiness. I went to school, I got good grades, I went to university, I got a good degree, I got a good professional job, and yet I still wasn't happy. And so there was something in me that was really telling me that like that wasn't my path. Like I had to rebel against that norm and that the normal road that people took. And so I decided I had a great opportunity at that time to go to Galapagos, the islands just 300 miles off the coast of Ecuador to the west. And so I went and I rationalized, I let a lot of people down. My family were distraught that I was leaving like a great job, great pay, great prospects, like that great normal life. And I was giving it all up for this like unknown mini adventure. But I just knew like something inside of me, I knew it was time to do that, and that the average life just wasn't for me. And I was 26 at the time, and I always remember like I was always like, well, I'll go for a year. I've got enough money to cover me at least a year. And like if I make a mistake, I can always go back. And that was the beginning of me really stepping into myself and really identifying that I'm not normal, I'm not average. I heard something like a few weeks ago, months ago now, I guess, and it was like the average person is obese, the average person is divorced, the average person is on antidepressants, the average person has less than $1,000 in their bank account. Like in neither of those categories am I average, and I certainly don't want to like aim to be average in any sense. ever, ever, ever. And so, yeah, making that decision when I was 26 was really that decision of like, I don't want to be normal anymore. I don't want to fit in. And it's no coincidence that 10 years later, I I live in a country, I live in Colombia, where I'm 25 centimeters taller than the average woman. So if you like, I have this here, I don't know why I have this here. So like I'm on average this much taller than the average Colombian woman. Like, and probably the average Colombian man's here. Like I stand out. I don't blend in here. Like I'm blonde, I have blue eyes. I don't blend in. Even somebody at the gym the other day. It's like Colombia is plastic fantastic. Anything, nothing has to be natural if you don't want it to be. And somebody asked me at the gym, they're like, how do you get your eyes that color? It's slightly blue. And they're just like, how do you get your eyes that color? Like, what's happening? What did you do? And I was like, no, they're natural. Like, it's so bizarre to have blue eyes here. But I love that. And I love being different. And so when it came to quitting alcohol, and I knew, like, I quit over 9 years ago. It's probably coming up to 10 now. I knew that that would make me very different to the normal person, but I'd already embraced the fact that I was normal. I'm not average. I'm an entrepreneur. I had my own business at that point. I wasn't working the 9 to 5. There's so many things that I disagree with when it comes to being normal, that not drinking actually suits me. So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. I just feel as if I've been on a little bit of a ramble. But so that's why I was drinking initially, to fit in, to blend in, and to get rid of that crippling anxiety that I had. And now I've just gone to the complete opposite extreme. And even the point where like my teachers used to think that I was a mute, like that I could not speak physically or emotionally, whatever. To now, like I have a YouTube video and some videos, like I have social media accounts. There's nothing about me that's timid or shy. And and alcohol has been one of those things that's really allowed me to step into my own and to really own my voice and own my actions. And it's such a beautiful thing. And so now when I'm in a situation and people offer me a drink or they question me on why I'm not drinking, I don't have a temptation to drink, because I know that if I were to drink again, it's because I'm trying to blend in, I'm trying to fit in, and that's not who I am anymore. I'm not somebody who blends in. I'm different, and that's amazing. So yeah, that's my story. What do I hope? I hope this has been useful on some level. I'm not sure if it is. I'd love to know if you want to hear more of my own personal story, or if you just prefer the how-to's story. And yeah, I'd love to hear your own personal story. And by sharing our stories, we bring light on the subject and we get rid of shame, taboo, and the stigma. So yeah, I guess that's the end of the video. See you very soon.